In a quiet Florida suburb in 1989, while most children were running through backyards, chasing each other in games of hide-and-seek, a 6-year-old boy named Jonathan James sat in front of a glowing computer screen. While other kids dreamed of baseball and bicycles, Jonathan dreamed in lines of code. His fascination wasn't with winning games or racking up high scores. It was with understanding the machine itself. How did it think? How did it work? Every pixel on the screen felt like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Jonathan's parents didn't share his excitement. His father, himself a programmer, became worried when his son spent endless hours glued to the monitor. He even installed anti-addiction software to limit computer use. But Jonathan, with the curiosity of a child prodigy, simply bypassed an early glimpse of the brilliance and determination that would one day make him famous in the world of cybersecurity. As Jonathan grew into his teenage years, his love for computers became an obsession. He devoured programming books, teaching himself C language and the Unix operating system before most of his peers even knew how to properly save a file. He studied source code for fun and spent long nights exchanging ideas with other budding hackers online. Arguments with his parents became frequent. Even when he earned his own computer, the tension didn't ease. When his parents finally confiscated the machine out of concern, Jonathan ran away from home, refusing to return until it was given back. His parents couldn't have known that soon. It wouldn't be them but the United States government that would forbid him from touching a computer. By the age of 15, Jonathan James had transformed from a curious teenager into one of the most talented young hackers in America, known in the hacker community as Comrade. He wasn't a malicious criminal. He didn't steal money, delete files, or unleash viruses. For him, the thrill was in the challenge. Breaking into a system was like conquering a mountain, and the steeper the climb, the sweeter the victory. Sometimes, after finding a vulnerability, he would even send polite emails to system administrators, warning them about the flaws in their security and offering advice on how to fix it. But in the summer of 1999, Jonathan set his sights on a target far larger than the local networks he had previously explored. He wanted to test himself against the giants of technology, the United States government. His first target was the Marshall Space Flight Center, part of NASA in Huntsville, Alabama. With nothing but a computer, an internet connection, and his own brilliance, the teenager managed to infiltrate 13 NASA computers. This time, Jonathan didn't just explore. He downloaded something extraordinary: the source code that controlled the temperature and humidity system of the International Space Station. Software reportedly worth $1.7 million. Jonathan later claimed that the code was poorly written and not remotely worth the price tag. But for him, it was never about money. He wanted to learn how the government built its system. NASA, on the other hand, was not amused. The breach was considered so severe that NASA shut down its computer systems for 21 days, costing the agency thousands of dollars and attracting the attention of federal investigators. But Jonathan wasn't finished. Riding the high of his success, he turned his attention to an even more sensitive target: the Pentagon. Specifically, he breached the Defense Threat Reduction Agency (DTRA), the division responsible for monitoring nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons threats. Jonathan installed a backdoor on a server located in Fort Beaver, Virginia, intercepting over 3,300 internal messages and capturing the usernames and passwords of 19 employees. Some of these employees had access to military networks, making the intrusion a national security concern. To Jonathan, this was still a dangerous puzzle that he had solved. He didn't destroy data, he didn't sell secrets, he simply explored. But the government saw things very differently. In January 2000, just after Jonathan turned 16, his world shattered. One morning, his mother shook him awake with words that would change his life forever. "The FBI is here." Minutes later, agents swarmed the house, seizing computers, CD, and even his Palm Pilot. Jonathan confessed to his activities and promised never to repeat them. But his journey through the legal system had just begun. Jonathan James became the youngest person in U.S. history to be convicted of cybercrime. While an adult could have faced up to 10 years in prison, Jonathan's age spared him from federal prison. Instead, he received 6 months of house arrest, a ban on recreational computer use, and was required to write letters of apology to both NASA and the Department of Defense. But his troubles weren't over. After a routine test revealed traces of drug use, Jonathan was sent to a juvenile detention center for 6 months. Prison life was a harsh reality check. Surrounded by real criminals, Jonathan's spirit began to break. His father later said that incarceration left his son deeply depressed, stripping away the light-hearted curiosity that had once defined him. When he was finally released, Jonathan vowed to leave hacking behind. But the world of hackers and cybercrime had evolved, and it was about to pull him back in, even if he wasn't the one typing commands anymore. Around the same time, another name was rising in the underground. Albert Gonzalez. Like Jonathan, he was a self-taught hacker and had also faced early visits from federal agents. But unlike Jonathan, Gonzalez embraced financial cybercrime. By the early 2000s, he was active in Crew, an online black market for stolen credit cards and identity information. Arrested in 2003 for credit card fraud, he struck a deal to work as an informant for the Secret Service. But while pretending to help law enforcement, Gonzalez secretly continued to orchestrate massive cyber heists, including what would become the largest credit card theft in U.S. history. Alongside hackers like Christopher Scott and Stephen Watt, Gonzalez's group carried out war-driving attacks, scaling business Wi-Fi networks from parked cars, infiltrating systems, and stealing millions of credit and debit card numbers. Their biggest target, TJX Companies, the parent company of TJ Maxx and Marshalls, where they compromised the data of over 90 million customers. By 2008, the Secret Service had begun to unravel Gonzalez's network, and suspicion fell once again on old names from the past, including Jonathan James. Agents raided his home for a second time. Though he insisted on his innocence, Jonathan couldn't shake the belief that he was being set up as a scapegoat. He knew that Gonzalez had been cooperating with the government for years, and he feared that his past convictions made him the perfect fall guy. Jonathan's despair deepened. He had read the infamous Agent Steele's Guide to Prison, a document circulating in hacker circles that warned about the dangers of trusting the justice system when informants were involved. He was convinced that no matter what he said, he would end up behind bars again, this time for crimes he didn't commit. On May 18, 2008, Jonathan James was found dead in his home. He left behind a note expressing his loss of faith in the justice system and his desire to die free rather than live as a scapegoat. He was just 24 years old. In the years that followed, Gonzalez was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, and investigators unearthed over $1 million in cash buried in his parents' backyard. Christopher Scott and Stephen Watt also faced long prison terms. But for Jonathan James, the story ended in tragedy, a brilliant mind silenced not by his crimes, but by the weight of a system that couldn't see the difference between curiosity and malice. Jonathan James remains a cautionary tale. He was a boy whose unmatched talent could have made him a pioneer in cybersecurity. Instead, he became the youngest convicted hacker in America, a victim of a world that wasn't ready to guide his genius toward the light. His story reminds us that behind every line of code in every hacker headline, there's a human being with dreams, fears, and the potential to change the world if only given the chance.